Let's start today with the topic of protests. Many of you have been writing to me and in different versions asking, do I think there are going to be violent protests or even riots if and when Donald Trump is indicted, arrested, surrenders, arraigned, whatever the case may be? Increasingly, it seems as though that is going to be sometime over the next 7 days, if at all. I'm couching all of these things with if at all, so I won't say it every time, but that's the speculation right now. And Donald Trump called for protests in some of those original Truth Social posts that first started this entire conversation about the arrest. Donald Trump putting protest, 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 it's time, on and on and on. And of course, we're well positioned to be concerned. It's reasonable to be concerned about violent protests from MAGA because violent protests from MAGA are in a way how we got into this mess in the first place with what happened on January 6th of 2021. But there's a difference. The early signals are that it's really not clear the MAGA people are willing to go out and do the protesting in this particular case. Partially, this was evidenced by Monday evening's completely flaccid, pathetic rally, just an impotent rally in Lower Manhattan, where there were more media people than protesters, and there were maybe a couple dozen protesters. We also had that video from Trump Tower yesterday where 5 people were there holding signs saying Trump won and one person blew a shofar. It's not exactly an electric atmosphere of protesting in defense of Donald Trump right now. Well, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham appeared on Fox and Friends yesterday, and he's using language that raised the eyebrows of many. And the language he's using is that if Trump is indicted, it will blow up our country. And again, many of you taking this as a sign that he's leading protesters to maybe behave violently. Let's listen to what Lindsey had to say.
So are you concerned about the District Attorney Bragg, Alvin Bragg, indicting President Trump next week in an unprecedented way, and the circus that would be around that?
Yeah, it's going to blow up our country, and this is a bunch of BS. You've had the prosecutor before Bragg, Mr. Vance, look at the case and pass on it. You had the U.S. Attorney in New York say, I'm not going to do it federally. Right. There was an intervening cause other than Trump running. One of the guys in the DA's office wrote a book very critical of Vance. You should have prosecuted Trump. You let him off, and Bragg feels that pressure. He's a George Soros-backed prosecutor.
Okay, so Lindsey is on topic with all of the bullet points. But that first line, if Trump is indicted, it will blow up our country. Some are understanding to be an allusion to violence, that Lindsey is saying, go out there and do the violent stuff. Now, I'll be very honest with you. I find Lindsey Graham to be a completely deplorable, two-faced individual. He, for years now, has bounced like a pinball between playing the rational Republican who can step back from MAGA insanity and tell things the way they are, sort of like pretending to be Mitt Romney in a way. But then he will behave in ways reminiscent of someone who should be evaluated psychiatrically. For example, his unhinged rant during the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, where Lindsey got all red in the face, screaming at the top of his lungs about how no one has been treated more poorly and unfairly and unjustly than Brett Kavanaugh. So there are two Lindsey Grahams. Lindsey Graham has no qualms morally with subtly inciting violence in the event that Trump is arrested. But I think what the wrench in this is going to be is that the Trump people don't really seem to care enough to actually go out and protest. Now, this may change if and when Trump is arrested. But in other times, I would have said this is very dangerous. This is a tinderbox that's about to explode. But right now, I'm not really seeing the evidence of that. I'm not seeing the rage and the engagement on the ground that these right-wingers insist is actually out there, ready to come out in defense of Trump. And again, case in point, just look at the turnout for the protest on Monday, which we covered in Lower Manhattan. More media than protesters, and even our friend Jason Selvig from The Good Liars getting multiple minutes of being interviewed by Right Side Broadcasting because they didn't really have real protesters that could coherently speak. So normally, I would say this is extraordinarily dangerous. Now I say people like Lindsey Graham are dangerous. Hopefully, they're being dangerous in an environment that is not actually going to lead to violence. That's the hope. Let's now look at another example of one of these so-called protests. Imagine for a second that you try logging into your email account only to find that your password was changed an hour ago. And then you get notifications of activity from your bank and then your credit cards. That is what identity theft is like, and it's a horrible feeling. And we dealt with it at the show not that long ago, but now I have an app called Aura, which gives me much more peace of mind. Our sponsor, Aura, is the all-in-one solution for keeping your online account safe, because Aura will scan the dark web for your personal info, passwords, social security number, and you get fast alerts when they find something. You also get fast alerts about credit inquiries. Aura protects all of your devices from malware. Aura even requests the removal of your info from data broker sites, and Aura helps you manage what your kids can do on their devices. You can restrict certain apps, set screen time limits, set focus times when you need them off of devices. Go to aura.com/Pacman to try it free for 7 days. Your login credentials might already be floating around out there, and Aura will tell you instantly for free. The link is down below.